He would then musically sing the horn, the guitar, the strings. He would sing all the instrumentation because he would have all of the ideas in his head. He would know the arrangement. It was just a matter of getting all of these ideas onto tape. And then once they were onto tape, and then the individual musicians would come in to do their overdubs, they could not only hear what their part would be, but they could hear, in a bigger sense, what the entire arrangement would be. After Michael would sing the individual musical elements, he would then sing his vocal arrangement over the top of that. This was a process that I would often do with Michael. And when the musician would come in, he would not only be able to hear what his part was, but he would be able to hear the song as a whole.
The fact that Michael doesn't play an instrument means he doesn't study an instrument, and it means that an instrument doesn't sort of sap his energy.
Though not technical, Michael has an affinity for technology and a deep understanding of how it can be manipulated.
But Michael has done something else. He makes wonderful music, and the instrument is the studio and the song and his voice and the whole sort of contextual process.
The fact that he wasn't a technologically oriented person actually fit into the philosophy of how we worked in the studio, because we would always make the technology follow what was required creatively. And Michael had great creative ideas.
And it works brilliantly.
Well, record one is, apart from being, technically almost beyond state of the art, there is equipment here that is built from scratch that exists in no other studio. The console that was in this room at the time that we did those records was built by us by hand, just one of a kind. And also our monitor systems are pretty stunning. And if you saw the one in the big room there, which we built for Michael, there's nothing like it anywhere. Which is why, now Dr. Dre and Eminem and, all those clients love that room, because the sound from the loudspeakers is astonishing. And Michael does enjoy listening to it at fairly high levels. One time I went in, Michael, they had just finished a song, and Michael says, "You got to hear this." So I remember I went in and I sat down at the center of the console, and he turns to Bruce, as the engineer, and says, "Okay, Bruce, hurt me." And there's a mark for that, the hurt me mark. And he turned it up to that, and they hit play, and I can't even tell you how loud it was.
Back in 1975, Sam Brown wrote One Day in Your Life for Michael and recalls that day recording in the studio.
And so the way Michael was working back then, he put the headphones on, he's in front of the mic, and he'd say, "Roll the tape." So we'd roll the tape with a demo singer singing it, and he'd listen to the first 8 bars, and he'd be sitting there, and he's listening, and he says, "Go back," and listens again. "Go back," and listens again, and he says, "Okay, I'm ready." And he starts to sing. And what was interesting, the first thing I noticed is that he has a phenomenal ear, because he was taking the phrasing, which singers don't normally do, of the demo singer, and singing the phrasing precisely the way they sang it. And so he did the first 8 bars. And so he said, "How'd that sound?" And I said, "That sounded great. That's right on the money." He says, "Okay, now let me sing it my way." So then he starts to sing it in a totally different phrasing, just like that. He had copped the phrasing of the demo singer off the tape, and now he's adding Michael Jackson to it. And I was like, "Oh, this is phenomenal."
He's just so good that pretty much you have it in a relatively few amount of takes. I mean, we did We Are the World. I mean, Michael pretty much sang his live parts down in one pass.
So it was no great surprise when Off the Wall was beaten by Michael's next solo album in 1982.
I was in the studio working with Quincy. We were working on subsequent albums when, in fact, the Thriller album was climbing up the charts and the singles were becoming number one after another, single after single. And I remember the day Quincy walked into the studio and he said, "The Thriller album has gone platinum in L.A."
I think someone said the word holistic. I think he does think of the whole picture of what he's doing when he does stuff.
Michael's creative expression doesn't end with the songs. He is, of course, most often remembered for pioneering the music video.
Thriller broke ground. First time music videos became something like a short film.
Michael was certainly one of the pioneers in the entire music video field.
In his own way, one of the vanguard pioneers of the form from Thriller on, and has always understood the impact of them.
Thriller. After I seen that video, we had like $5. We went to the ice cream truck and they had these little fake chains with the fist. It was like a little limestone glove. We was walking around with limestone necklaces on.
At approximately the same time that we were doing the Bad album, we also were working on the Captain EO movie, which was a 3D attraction at the Disney theme parks. Michael did some really good music, and I know they had a lot of interesting time shooting the dance scenes.
With so much on his plate, what was he like on set? Smith Words, now a choreographer, remembers the days when she danced with Michael.
We had a very long rehearsal period. I think we probably rehearsed for 6 weeks, which is unheard of in the video world. And it was pretty uncomfortable. Francis Ford Coppola directed it. And I believe George Lucas was actually producing it. Because we were in 3D, we had 3D lighting, so it was extra hot. It was triple the lighting. We were in rubber suits, rubberized jumpsuits, in 3D lighting, and with all the steam. And Michael was great. He was just funny, goofy, hardworking. He danced as hard as any of us.
Creative and inspired as ever, Michael continued to make amazing videos, including Smooth Criminal, shot and released in 1988.
Michael decided that there was going to be an entire improv section. He heard it musically, I think is what happened. And there's a chant that starts happening. Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? Annie, are you okay? And we went into silence, and then Michael just started screaming. And said, we were instructed by the director and by the choreographer and by Michael to just do what you feel. And you see legs flying. In fact, I know there was one shot where I start off that thing. Wait a minute, it starts on me. There's a little cat that walks across the piano, and then you see glass break, and then you see I did this big arch, and then I did a thing with my leg, and that's the beginning of that section. And then you start hearing moans, and Michael starts screaming, and it's really kind of eerie. And then Michael goes into a chant, Annie, are you okay? And then we were all asked to chant along with. So we all started chanting. And then it breaks back into a proper choreographic section, which is the entire company dancing together, including Michael.
In 1995, Nick Brandt conceived of and directed the incredible Earth Song video.
The most interesting time for me was on Earth Song, when I had a bunch of very cynical, jaded New Yorkers for crew for the part of the shoot that he was there, and they were just, oh yeah, Michael Jackson, da-da-da-da-da. But then, when he started singing at the end of that song, and he's just screaming out the vocals, you could just see, you just look around, and everybody had stopped in their tracks and was watching him riveted. And he would only give me like one take from each angle because he was being blasted by, you know, these wind machines, and stuff was flying in his eyes, and just, I mean, it was really hard. I mean, we were just firing dust and leaves and all manner of stuff into his face. and everybody was just electrified. And he completely turned everybody around.